Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here today. It is so wonderful that you could join us again. And I am really excited to introduce to you Laura Hoorweg. And Laura is an international spiritual counselor, intuitive coach, and psychic medium. And she has a laser way of seeing relevant details in all areas of your life. She is perceptive in ways that feel like your own deepest knowing. She brings a compassionate, no nonsense presence to her work, along with a huge capacity to see and outline the most positive, life affirming way forward. She is both a seer and a counselor, and her passion is to empower people to live their lives in the most authentic and passionate way possible, aligning their lives with their own divine mission and discovering and developing their own spiritual gifts. And I just love all of that because this is the journey that I think, well, I know I am on, and I know that a lot of other people are on right now. And so this is going to be very pertinent to a lot of us. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, thank you for having me on. Wonderful.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you got into what you do now. I know there's a
I'll have to go to the Reader's Digest version of that because it really was something that started developing when I was a young child, and then it kind of disappeared for a while, and then in my teens it popped up again, and then in my 20s, early 30s it kind of disappeared again, and then I popped up back into my spiritual journey probably in my late 30s, definitely in my 40s. I originally started doing readings and things for people kind of part-time on the side. I used to be in the corporate world, so it was quite a juxtaposition in terms of energies. But in about 2015, I started my own full-time counseling and coaching practice. So I've been doing it for the last 10 years. And I was really called to it. In 2014, basically my life imploded and exploded at the same time. I lost well, I didn't, I chose to leave. Let's put it a different way. I chose to leave, which is the truth, a very toxic environment in my corporate job. And then I was out of my corporate job for about 6 months, and suddenly my partner died. So my whole world was kind of blown up. And then I went on an my own extensive healing journey to grieve not only my partner, but the loss of my career. There were so many things I was grieving. And if you've ever had lost anyone important to you, it doesn't matter whether it's a partner, a child, a parent, whatever it is, you'll always find that it's common amongst most people that every single thing that you haven't dealt with in your life comes up for review.
Mm-hmm.
It triggers a mass, I was going to say a mass extinction, but I guess it is a mass extinction in a way, in terms of what you need to let go of. Okay. So that led me to really hear my calling very, very profoundly, that I was meant to do this work in order to help other people. And as any healer knows of any stripe, and I consider myself a healer as well, when you're helping other people heal, you're actually healing yourself at the same time. So imagine what the long version would have sounded like.
Well, we may have to have a part 2 to hear that.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm thinking about how I've interviewed a lot of people who have been like in the corporate world, and then all of a sudden these things happen. And a lot of it comes out of grief. And it's not just because I interview people in grief. It's just, it seems like that's a big catalyst for the awakening or the sudden, like you say, realization of all the things that need to be healed, and they start to come up for you. So I know you had an out-of-body experience.
Oh, okay. Everybody loves
I
that.
want to
Yeah.
hear a little bit about this. Um,
Okay.
it happened when you were young. Tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
this is when I said that, I had some really powerful spiritual experiences when I was in my teens. I was 15 when this happened. And I was working up northern Ontario in this beautiful big provincial park called Algonquin Park. And we were doing climbing and rappelling. And I was on the top of a cliff looking down. And when you looked out, all you could this is wilderness. This is like way up northern Ontario. And all you see is rock and lakes and trees. And it's just incredibly beautiful. It's just, you can't even, some of the famous 7 Canadian painters in Canada, they all did paintings and this area, or a lot of them did paintings in this area. So you can tell how beautiful it is. Okay. So anyway, it was this awesomeness of beauty of the natural world that I believe triggered this experience. And the fact that I was at a height and there was a lot of different little elements. Anyway, the story is, the way it goes is I was just standing there, and all of a sudden I just felt this incredible, it's like every energy, every part of me that was the true me in terms of my spirit just whooshed out of my body and shot like a rocket right up into the sky. And all of a sudden I was standing, well, not standing, I was sort of hovering, hovering, looking down, and I'm looking down and I see all my compatriots up on the cliff. I see for even more miles and miles and miles of beautiful lakes and rivers and trees and animals and everything. And I'm just up there going, wow, what is this? And it was almost just as I thought that again, that powerful, what, this is the only way I can describe it. This is very hard to describe in English. Okay. This incredible whoosh. And it was like I rocketed up, and all of a sudden I found myself actually looking down on the earth and actually seeing the earth from outer space. And I totally understand, because I grew up in the time when they were doing the whole moon thing. And they always talked about how the astronauts always talked about how viewing the earth from outside of it changed their entire perspective on everything. And having this experience, I totally understand why, because it was amazing. So again, I mean, and it's hard to explain because I just felt like I was totally immense. Like there was no boundaries to me. It was like I was part of everything. And I wasn't scared in the least. There was no fear. There was no anxiety. There was nothing. There's just peace, and I felt loved, and I felt strong and confident, and I felt like I went on forever and that I was attached to everything. Okay. So I was just getting into this awe of looking at this beautiful earth of ours from above it. And then all of a sudden again, this whoosh and this rocket feeling of this power and flow comes into me. And all of a sudden I look around and I'm actually out surrounded. I want to say in the universe, but I was beyond that because I was looking at other universes. I was looking at all these, or other galaxies, shall I say? Sorry, galaxies, spiral galaxies. So yes, I am out in the universe, and there's all these other spiral galaxies and nebulae and all this wonderful stuff. And I'm just starting to get into it. Like I'm just so much in awe, and I'm just really getting into it, and I'm turning all around trying to see everything at once. And then all of a sudden another feeling came over me, and it was exact opposite of the last feeling. And the only way I can describe it is like somebody clicked the handle on the toilet and flushed me down the drain. That's what it felt like. It was like I was just sucked all the way back down at super beyond light speed back into my body, and it was like boom, and I was back in my body. And it was terrible. It was like I didn't fit. It was like I was too big to get in there. And actually, it took several days for me to actually feel comfortable in my body again. But when I kind of got grounded and came to, is the only way I can describe it, being back in my body and being back on the earth, I looked around and I said, what happened? And what had actually happened is at that point, I was only, to their realization, I was only gone for a few seconds. To me, it was like seemed like hours almost, right? But one of my thought I was too close to the edge of the cliff. So what he did is he grabbed the back of my pants and he yanked me back. He yanked my body back, and that's what brought my energy back into my body, I guess.
Mm.
But it was quite the experience, and I've tried to, in several different ways, recreate that experience, but I've never succeeded to this point.
Yeah.
I've had some pretty interesting, wild experiences, and I've had some other, what I would call kind of out of body experiences, but nothing that comes to the level of that particular experience.
Hmm. Yeah. So you've always kind of had that. And I guess that happens to some people, you have this kind of knowing then that there is more out there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It totally changed my idea of life and the world and how it worked, and that there was so much more to this than what we were being told. So it it caused me some problems. It caused me some problems, but that's all I'm going to say. Because when you start to look at everything differently than everybody else does, especially, at the tender age of 15, I'm not gonna say it turned me into some angel or some nun or some monk or something like that. It didn't do that. I still did all the crazy teenage things. I still had a lot of, how shall we say, challenging experiences. But at the root of it, it kind of settles into your soul. And even though life goes on and you kind of forget about that experience, the energy and the memory of that is still very, very deeply rooted inside you. So it came up at other stages in my life.
Hmm.
That's the best way I can probably explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast have either come through some type of experience, maybe through grief. They're looking for more. They know there's more out there, or they're just living the life that they just hope there's more. And I think what we're really all reaching for is just to be our authentic selves. And that kind of caught
There you go.
me in your bio, how we
Yeah.
really want to just be who we are, figure out who we are. And
Yeah.
grief can take you down a journey like that. And so how do you help people do that?
Well, I help them to change their lifestyle and change their mindset. Okay, first you have to change your mind, and you have to actually, you don't even have to believe in this stuff, but you have to open the door to, there's a possibility there's something more. Okay, that's the first step. So once you've opened your mind to that, then you can start doing practices, you can start, researching, you can start reading. All these things help. What helped me the most, I think, though, on an ongoing basis is probably meditation. Between yoga and meditation, I healed myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Okay, those two things, and nature. Okay, as I said, we could go into another story, but I'm not going to go into that story. It's too long. Um, I found my connection to spirit, which is, I'm sure, is why I had that experience in the first place. But I found I wasn't brought up in a religious family. I had been to all kinds of different churches, but I never felt like that's where God and the angels, whatever language you want to use, I didn't feel that's where spirit resided. I felt there was a lot of nice people there, but my church, my cathedral, my connection to spirituality, my own spirituality in the universe, has always been through nature. And that's what really brought it home. So what people have to do is start exploring and find out what's meaningful to them. And that's a huge part of your authentic self, because we're told over and over again what should be important to us. And that might not have anything to do with what's really important to your authentic self. So the reason everybody talks about authentic self, but not nobody, but very few people talk about why it's so important. Because finding and getting and befriending and creating a deep connection to your authentic self is what leads you to your path. You know, so many people come to me and like, what's my mission? What's my path? And really, to do that, you need to find out who you really are before you can really find out what that mission, what you came to do here. Okay. What the services you came to give the world. And you can't really do it without, because that is the crux of who you really are. And that's your authentic self. So you can't do it unless you go down that road. It's
Yeah.
probably the easiest way to put it.
Yeah. And so when you help people with this, what do you do? Like, I know you have the ability to, you have the psychic ability and you have the mediumship and all of that. So does that play into it? And then,
Oh, absolutely. Because what
yeah.
happens in a session when I'm in a private session with somebody is basically I have a whole group of guides. My group of guides it's not bigger is better, but I have a pretty big group. Okay. And what I've been told by Spirit is the more people that your mission involves helping, usually the larger your, what I call your core group, which is your guides and angels that you come into each lifetime with, and they stick with you throughout this particular lifetime. So my guides and angels interact with whoever I'm dealing with. Say it was your group, and they all join together and they figure out what's best for you and what you need to know. And they channel that all through me. And my guides lately have been harassing me in a loving way. They want me to start using we. And I have a big problem with that because when I'm in session, that's really an accurate description because we are speaking together. Okay. It's not me speaking. It's not me translating and then speaking, then me speaking. It's me, all of us speaking as one. Okay. But I have a problem with the whole we thing because it really, there's a part of me, it strikes me as a bit pompous, you know, like the royal we. And I have a little bit of a problem, but I'm getting better with it. So we really, and thing I love about Spirit is Spirit always goes to the core issue. Okay. Now there's a lot of traditional quote unquote therapies and counselors and all that kind of stuff out there. A lot of what they do is manage symptoms. Okay. They help you to manage symptoms. And that's wonderful. And sometimes people need that right away, but it doesn't solve the problem. Okay. And what people don't realize either, which is why I love so much being a spiritual counselor, is the issues may not simply lie in this lifetime. I've seen lots of issues that go back into several lifetimes and that are merely triggered in this lifetime by things that happened to us in this lifetime. And the reason they're triggered is because so we can heal them and release them. Okay. So that is what I do. I help people identify what those issues are. I help them work through them, and I show them ways in which they can release those energies. Now, to a large extent, just being conscious of what those issues are, you're already starting to release them. Because I have a little tagline on my business cards that says, empowering people through conscious awareness. Because you can't heal anything or release anything unless you're consciously aware of it. If it's still stuck in your subconscious or out of your field of vision in some way, shape, or form, it's pretty darn hard to release that and heal it. And really, release, and I've been shown over and over again, release and heal are synonymous with each other, because what we're doing when we're healing is we're simply releasing those negative energies that are blocking us or causing us discomfort or upsetting our energy is a good way of looking at it. Because everything's energy. That's the other thing you have to realize before you go anywhere, that and this is what was driven home to me at a very young age, and actually partially through that out-of-body experience, was everything is energy. Okay. No matter how solid something looks, including this desk that I'm sitting at, it's all energy. So that's in a nutshell, and it's very unique for each person. Okay. It's really what Spirit wants what issues and what things they want them to look at in that particular session. Also, I offer clients that they can bring questions. And funny enough, the way it all works out, imagine this, that the stuff that Spirit wants them to work on is often almost identical to the questions that they're asking. But the good thing about the reason I ask people to, some people have a problem from my side of the desk with people asking questions. And I don't have any problem with that, because this is what I'm told that we need to do. Because when we're asking a question, we're giving permission to spirit to help us. Okay. And as we all know, or most of us know, this is the planet of free will. And if we don't give a yes to this help, our guides and angels just can't jump in and start doing things, because that would be against our free will. So literally by asking a question, you are giving your assent for assistance, because you've asked the question. You see how that works?
Yes.
So I actually encourage people to ask questions. Now, I give people both information that they've asked about and information that comes up directly from spirit.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes.
And as people work through this, I assume that they be looking for ways to connect with their own intuition and their
Yes.
own guidance through that. And do you help them with that as well?
Absolutely. That's a big part of it. And spirit always says to me that they're not here to make us dependent on them. They're actually here to help us do exactly what you just said in terms of getting better contact with their own guidance and intuition. But one of the best ways to do that, because we always second guess ourselves, we just say, oh, I'm just making that up, or, that's just wishful thinking or whatever. So having spirit confirm things that we have gleaned from our own intuition is like, wow, that was right. I got, so that gives us more confidence, and it gives us the ability to tune in more finely to our own intuition. Plus, there's a lot of practices and a lot of things that you can do to actually make that process of having that deeper connection, not condition, connection with your own intuition, and makes it a lot easier and speeds up the process. To that as well. Okay. And a huge, I'm going to sound like a harpy, but one of the best ways is meditation, meditation, meditation. It's like real estate: location, location, location. This is, if you want that spirit connection, it's meditation, meditation, meditation. Okay. And there's some myths. We can talk about that more if you'd like, but I'm kind of rambling here, so I'm going to stop.
Yeah. Well, no, and I agree with all of that. And in my experience, what you were saying, because I have begun to connect to guides and that sort of thing, but I'm always questioning, did that really happen? Was that really the message that I got? And I am working with a mentor right now, and that confirmation is huge.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Going
It's
and
really,
getting those.
and the other advantage I have is because I'm also a medium. Sorry, I'm wiping my eyes because my allergies are making me crazy. I obviously should have put some drops in my eyes. My eyes are watering. I'm not sad. My eyes are just watering. The advantage of also being a medium, and I'm going to clear something up because a lot of people don't understand this, and there's a lot of people out there making it even more difficult to understand because they're telling people things that, how shall I say, aren't really true. Okay. Mediumship is everybody is psychic. Okay. Everybody is psychic to some degree. Okay. It's just like everybody can play basketball. I love this analogy. Everybody can play basketball. Some people are just better at it than others. And then, of course, there's people who practice, and they can be better than people who have a natural gift simply because they put the effort into it. Okay. But mediumship is different. Mediumship is a separate gift. Okay. Being able to hear and talk to the people on the other side. I put it in this way: all mediums are psychic, not all psychics are mediums. Okay. But where the advantage to also being a medium is not only can I give people messages and information from their own guides and my guides and spirit source, okay, But also often even just in personal sessions, because they know that I can hear them, somebody on the other side will come through for the person. And they always have some kind of message, some kind of help for that person, because that's why they're coming through. They're coming through with love. It's either to let the person know that they're okay, and that's a huge thing for people who are still grieving. The other thing is they'll often come through and, lovingly kick people in the butt, which I love those. For example, somebody's been procrastinating on doing something, and one of their beloved relatives on the other side will come through, and we won't even have talked about this, and I don't even know about it. We haven't even hit on that yet. And they're like, get her to get out there and do this. Okay. I like the Nike t-shirt one too. It's like, just do it. They kind of do stuff like that. Actually, people, once we get on this is another thing about humor. Okay. I have to interject this because I'm actually getting led. You notice how much that I laugh. Okay. I have an incredible sense of humor, just being my own self. And I love to laugh. And I tell you, those two qualities, my sense of humor and my ability to laugh easily and frequently, has done nothing less than saved my life on many occasions. Okay. And what I've learned being a medium is, on the other side, there's tons of humor and laughter. It is a absolute necessity. And people who don't allow themselves that when they're here are separating themselves from an incredible healing tool, and also from an incredible way of bringing joy into their life. Because trust me, even in your darkest hour, if you can find a glimmer of irony or something funny, or the ability to simply laugh at yourself and your situation, it's incredibly healing and strengthening, and it can get you through the darkest night of the soul. That's all I'm going to say about that. But we need more of that in our world.
Yeah. And I think the confirmation that there is humor on the other side, because I think all of us I think we were led to believe that it's all very serious over there.
Oh, and very pious, and all that. Oh my God, no. Trust me. And I tell you, some of the most incredible comedians, for example, I have a very close connection with Archangel Michael. You might have seen, if you look at my Facebook thing, it says Warrior Princess. That's part of where that came from. Actually, other people named me that. I didn't name myself that. But if you know anything about Archangel Michael, he's a warrior angel, and he's the head of the warrior angels. Okay, that's his thing. And he's about protection and all this stuff. And it's not lost on me why we have this close connection. But what I was getting at is, he has an absolutely outrageous sense of humor, and sometimes just cracks me up. It's actually embarrassing. He'll crack me up in situations where I really shouldn't be laughing, according to our earthly standards. So it can be an issue sometimes, but yes, it's just to underline the fact of how much humor there is on the other side.
Yeah.
And how important it is.
Yeah. And I believe that. And I know that, well, we always say laughter is healing, right? And you mentioned that. So it's funny because I don't think of myself as a very funny person. I mean, I can't really tell jokes or whatever. It doesn't really come off the way it needs to. I'm definitely not a comedian. But when I've contacted my guides, and when my mentor contacts my guides, there has been a lot of humor. And,
oh, yes,
they're playing with you lovingly.
Yeah.
And they love to play with words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They love irony. They love cracking jokes to make you laugh at yourself and make you feel silly for what you're doing. We need that, And that's what I'm saying. Being funny and humorous is not about being able to tell jokes. It's simply finding the humor in the moments of everyday life. That's what I'm talking about, the sense of humor. There's very few people that are actually really good at telling jokes, in case you haven't noticed. Okay. And a lot of the jokes that people tell, to be quite frank, they're not really funny. But what I find really humorous, literally, is the everyday moments in life. Like somebody will do something really silly and they know it's silly, and then they'll start laughing, and then everybody will start laughing. That's what I'm talking about. The kind of
Mhm.
humor that I'm talking about
Yeah.
is laughing in a loving way. Okay, I'm not talking about, calling people down or anything like that. I'm talking about just laughing at the funny little, stupid little things. I call them human tricks,
Mhm.
laughing at our own human tricks and other people's. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's really good to help us realize that there's that human aspect to ourselves, and, and how we look after that, and how we can look at that from, your a different perspective. Like you say, when you had that out of body experience,
Yeah.
there's a deeper place where we can look at this and go, wow, like, aren't you cute down there doing what you're doing? Right? Like, it's
Well,
like,
there's that spiritual principle, which is called being the
mm,
observer. And it's really stepping out of yourself and looking at yourself from in terms of as a witness, as an observer. You're observing yourself doing that. And there's a lot of psychological tools and stuff that they use that uses a similar thing about stepping out of the situation or stepping outside yourself and looking and witnessing what you're doing or what you're saying or how you're acting. And I tell you, it's really when you start practicing it and you start getting half decently good at it, it takes work. But see, this is the other thing that I'm going to bring up is everybody these days seems to be looking for this magic pill.
mm.
And the first thing that my guides have always said to me is there is no magic pill. Okay. If you're not willing to they can help you a lot. They can help you. They can make it easier. They can point you in the right direction. They can give you messages. They can give you signs, all those wonderful things. But when it comes right down to it, you got to do the work. Okay. So if you're not, and I tell you, I guess it's because of my own personality. I have what I call some pretty kick-ass guides, and they don't have a lot of patience for people who are playing the poor me and who aren't willing to do their own work. Okay. They just have no time for people like that, because until you get yourself out of that and you're willing to actually take responsibility for your life, there's not really a whole lot even spirit can do for you. Okay. And because people are so busy blaming everybody else for everything that goes wrong in their life. And that they don't understand that that's probably the most disempowering thing you can do. Okay. Because if you're blaming everybody else and every other thing for everything that's happening in your life, that means you have absolutely zero control on your life. Okay. Which is totally untrue. Okay. If you take responsibility, that is so empowering, because if you take responsibility, that means you can change anything in your life. And that is actually the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because we can easily get into that victimhood
Yeah.
type state where we just, yeah, like you say, it all happened because so and so did this or so and so did
Yeah.
that, and now I'm in this situation, or I can never make money, or I can never, I'll never be happy again because my loved one is gone. There's all of those stories
Yeah.
that we
We
kind of
tell
tell
ourselves.
ourselves. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we get ourselves into that space where we can't get out. And yeah, it's hard to help someone in that space. Yeah. Okay. Well, I know that after hearing just even this little bit of conversation, people are going to want to know how to contact you, how to get a hold of you, and what you
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of different ways. I'm all over social media. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all that. So you can find me pretty easily on those. But the best way, if you're interested in finding out more about my work or getting a session booked or finding out about my mediumship sessions, the best thing to do is you can go to my website, which is www.spiritspeaks2.me. or you can email me, which is probably the easiest way. And it's just Laura Hoorweg at gmail.com. And I'm sure, as a wonderful host, that you're going to have all this information
Bet
in
I
the
will.
show notes as well. Yeah, and you can find me on Instagram too. I'm just sort of getting into Instagram a little bit more, but that's just Hoorweg Laura. And I had to switch those around on Instagram. And I'm on, like I said, I'm on Facebook a lot. I have a Facebook group as well as a personal page, which I do work stuff on too.
Wow. This has been fantastic. It's just, I feel like we're just touching the tip of the iceberg here.
Yeah, I'm feeling part 2 coming.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like I always tell my clients, there's only so much you can do in an hour, and it's gone like that. So it's good, but it's been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we can all look forward to part 2.
The Laura and their guides conversation 2.0.
Yes, love it. Well, thanks again for taking the time. Thanks everyone for listening. And we'll see you in part 2.